everybody, this is Gaynor Meilke, and I am the owner of Charisma Inc. And we are here for Moving the Needle, which is digital transformation in the accounting channel. And I'm joined by my co-host John Higgins and our guest today, Brenda Jordan from SOBI. So John, do you want to say hi? And then we'll have Brenda introduce herself too.
Yeah, thanks, Gaynor, and welcome everyone to our podcast here. So, as Gaynor mentioned, my name is John Higgins, and I specialize in helping CPAs and CFOs to understand and, more importantly, apply and integrate technology solutions into their practices or businesses. So, very excited to have Brenda with us today.
And we're lucky to have Brenda. It's dinner time where you are in Ireland.
That's right. So if you hear my tummy grumbling or rumbling, you hear that noise, it's not thunder, it's just my tummy. Okay. So yeah, look, just want to, I guess, introduce myself. Brenda Jordan. I'm the founder and CEO of SOBI Analytics, and so I was just having a chat with John and Gaynor before we started recording, and I was explaining that I have run my own accountancy practice in Ireland for over 25 years prior to founding SOBI, and during that time, always very, very focused on delivering growth advice to small to medium-sized businesses at a long before it was called CAS, Client Advisory Services. And so 4 or 5 years ago, I actually set out on the journey to actually automate a lot of what I was doing, because we were relying very, very heavily on spreadsheets to get access to the insights, to the information that we needed to drive better decision making with our clients. And so that's what we've done in SOBI. We've actually built a solution to actually help other advisors to small to mid-sized businesses.
That's fantastic. And you and I met Brenda, I think, at a conference a couple of years ago
Yeah.
and in the US. And tell us a little bit about it's kind of a bold move to come to the US and start a software company. I know you've got offices in New York and you're growing a team to serve the accounting market. So what was the
Right.
impetus for that?
Yeah.
That's a big story.
I know, and it's funny because when I talk to organizations here in Ireland, typically people grow, their companies in Ireland, the UK, and Europe, and then look to the States. But I actually brought SOBI straight to the US, and there were a couple of core reasons for doing that. One was that the CPA were actually starting to talk about CAS in a way that just resonated with me, because I realized, hey, that's what I've been delivering for the last 20 something years. And, this is an exciting time to actually bring all of that experience and everything I'd learned and everything I knew about this space to the States. It was, and obviously it's a huge market out there. So it was a good opportunity. I also recognized that in building a software solution that would actually deliver those insights, the US is a perfect location, because something like 80% of small businesses out in the States use a combination of QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, and they use, Salesforce or HubSpot as their CRM systems. Whereas to do that in Ireland or, in Europe, I would have been talking about having to build integrations with hundreds in order to get next or near the same scale that
Mm.
we have achieved in the US.
Wow, that's amazing.
Is it?
So it is. So
Thank
where
you.
do you see, I guess, the maybe some differences in what you were doing with your clients in Ireland versus what you see accountants are doing with their clients here in the US? And
Okay, so I guess the big change there now is now we have AI. And now we have technology. So,
Mhm.
in terms of what is possible now compared to what was possible when I was doing it on spreadsheets, it's like worlds apart. So clearly, back in the time when I was doing it on spreadsheets, if I could, get access or build out trends on growth rates or on, operation margins and on, profit margins and so on, and give in, even basic insights, there was, fair amount of work involved. But now, with AI and I would have to say, particularly with SOBI and the way we've built it, you can get access to those insights immediately, plus so much more. And it's just changed the landscape. So quite often I look and think, gosh, I wish I had this technology when I was running my own practice. It would have, I would have been able to help my clients so much more. So
That's an
yeah, there's a lot
interest,
of changes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting point that you brought up, and I think that's where um, the accounting profession needs some guidance itself. Is we know that the AI exists and there's solutions like what you've built, but
Mm-hmm.
people aren't necessarily 100% sure how to use it to get to that advisory level. So do you have any thoughts on that with
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a couple of thoughts on that, and really, it's in around, I guess, accountants to first of all stop being fearful of AI. I am, in my opinion and in my experience, AI is not going to replace accountants. What it does do is it empowers the advisor to be 10 times more effective and more helpful to their clients. And so that can be done in a number of different ways. So in terms of looking at, client advisory services, I mean, there's a number of key ways that AI should be used by these accountants, recognizing that the impact it can actually have on their firms. Okay, so I guess to talk to the impact first of all, by actually using technology, it gives capacity to accountants delivering growth advice, to support more clients with less manual work. It also allows them to build, additional revenue streams with minimal cost. It encourages their clients to actually have, I guess, deeper insights and to have longevity in their own businesses and to build trust with clients. And it also just sort of brings in a stickiness to firms that are delivering it, that their clients aren't going to jump ship, and move on. If their accountant can make that leap to trusted advisor rather than somebody who is simply looking after compliance issues. So it is actually taking that leap. It's reshaping the way accountants deliver value, which I think is fundamental.
Yeah, Brenda, I spent some time looking at your website earlier today, and very impressed with the way you put your solution together. And this whole area of client advisory services, I've been speaking to it for many years in my presentations to CPAs, and the challenge has always been for most practitioners is like, okay, I get the idea, I understand what you're saying, John, but how do I do it? And it's not just how, but I think also if you've been doing compliance work all of your professional career, is like, oh, now, maybe I don't have the confidence to be an advisor. I know how to do compliance
Yes.
really well. I can complete a tax return, better than anybody, or put together financial statements. And so your tool really seems to, give it that a confidence builder because you've got the solution there. And then I'm sure with the AI as I incorporated into it, that's even better because now you just
Yeah.
help me understand what questions I should ask and, help me decide how to present it to the client. But one of my presentations I do is as a technology trends update, and I talk about a lot of different technologies. But I always stop and spend a lot of time on, data analytics and dashboard reporting because to me that's like the most natural evolution for a CPA practitioner to get into client advisory and like you say, help the clients just understand the
Yeah.
numbers. And then, as you say, you got prescriptive analytics. That's what they really want. Okay, now, okay, John,
Oh,
how do
yeah.
we improve the situation? What do we have to do? So I really like the approach
Yeah.
you've taken.
Thank you. And you've actually put your finger
Yeah.
right on the pulse, in my opinion, John, in terms of the issues or the delays in CPAs, or indeed, accountants or professional bookkeepers, I would add,
Sure.
in actually making the leap over to providing that service. And there is a natural reticence, I think, in from professionals who, to your point, have focused their careers on compliance type work. And quite frankly, they haven't been close enough to the coalface, as we would say here,
Mhm.
to possibly understand transactional data and the impact or the story, that can be read from transactional data. And I've actually seen quite often, and that's why I mentioned bookkeepers, because I think quite often bookkeepers can understand that data and interrogate it and decipher it and give it insights. And I guess so in terms of actually taking that leap, one thing that I was very focused on when we were building out SOBI, and it was a learning. We learned every step of the way.
Sure.
So when I we built out SOBI at the very beginning. We focused on all the metrics, getting the data at transactional level, building out the metrics, building out the KPIs, and then we realized actually this isn't enough. We need to go a little bit further, and we need to make it really easy, right? And so we went further then in terms of applying machine learning to allow the user or their accountant or advisor to build out business projections at the touch of a button. But then it was actually to understand what that meant and what are the implications. So I mean that was one of the first things, I guess, in terms of the machine learning, the business projections, and then it was wrapping KPIs in around that, and I guess it was actually there is a learning curve there for a lot of accountants in
Sure.
actually understanding what are the performance indicators that we need to build, what are the things we need to measure for this client in order to give them real value. So what we do in SOBI is we actually help or we advise or we set up KPIs that we know are applicable to particular industries.
Oh,
So
okay.
it actually gives. So that is something that we do. And then the third part is the output. And this is where we had to really be creative. That, we had started out doing, business insights reports. Okay. And that was a huge step forward because we were saying, okay, management accounts, okay, they give you a certain amount of information, but what do they mean? What are the things you need to measure? What are the things you need to do? What are the actions? And we also then had pushback on that because we had users kind of saying, yeah, that's great, you're pulling out what has happened, you're showing us what's going right, what's going wrong, but you're not telling us what we need to do about it. How do we advise our clients? And so we kind of realized there was support needed the whole way along the journey, which brought us to the prescriptive analytics part. And so, what we actually do within SOBI, we don't just tell you what has happened, we tell you why it has happened, the causality. So, we do that by recognizing the relationships between data. So, for example, any account system can tell you that your revenue has gone up or it's gone down, right? And it can give you the trends. What it won't tell you is why. It won't say, actually, something, your sales conversion rates. So I should have mentioned we include CRM data and payroll data into
Oh,
into SOBI to give deeper insight. So we can actually point and say, actually, there's something that has actually um, uh, uh, performed outside of its target, right? You haven't got enough salespeople. One of your salespeople is giving too many discounts, whatever the purpose is. So we can pinpoint the causality. Then following on from that, then we use AI to actually then give advice or guidance in terms of, okay, you know what the cause is. This is our recommendations for dealing with that. Now, we want to get that into the hands of the advisors. We don't necessarily want to get it into the hands of business owners, but because we actually believe that the relationship between business owners and their trusted advisors is much, much more powerful. Because, for
Yeah.
example, AI can tell you, what's going right, what's going wrong, but
hmm
it's not going to know like your advisor will that maybe you're bringing out a new product line in a month's time, or you have an investment coming in, or you're preparing to, retire or to do an M&A. And so the advice and guidance you might get from AI, it could be incorrect in terms of the lack of the soft knowledge, if you like, or the personal knowledge that advisors should have with their clients.
Like the whole context of the situation as opposed to
Correct.
just what the machine's telling you. And that you kind of answered the question that was running through my head is obviously
Yeah.
there's a trust factor, right, I would say on both sides of the equation with the advisor on the data that they're getting and the insights that the AI is
Yes.
able to pull out. And then also on the business owner side. And I think that's where so many accountants have like I mean, it's like superpower
Oh,
where
yeah.
between like putting their professional knowledge to work for the business owner. That's what the business owner wants.
It's actually a combination of the two. You've hit the nail on the head. It's the combination of the two. And I don't see AI replacing that anytime soon because it hasn't got the personal relationship with the clients, and it never will.
Mhm. What do you
Brenda,
think,
what are you
John?
seeing? Are you seeing patterns with your users of your system in their practices? Are they like setting up a kind of an annuity model to review the information monthly, quarterly, or what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, it's typically on a monthly basis that we actually see. I mean, some of our clients, set up SOBI and literally just send the reports off to their clients every month. They say, "Okay, here's the insights for you." I
Uh-huh.
don't necessarily recommend that, but I prefer to see something personal in there from the advisor. But it is
Yeah.
done. It's sold as a part of a service or a commodity to a certain extent, which I said I
Hmm.
don't necessarily agree with. I think the other side of it, is very valuable. And so most people would do it monthly. And but I actually there's a client of ours based out of California, and they actually use SOBI to drive weekly conversations with their clients, which it's the first time I've come across that, where they
Uh-huh.
will say, okay, we take 10 minutes to ring each client and actually say, okay, we're looking at your results here on the screen. Okay, something going wrong, something right, something wrong. Okay, let's take a look at that and see what needs to be done. And to me, that is obviously, to most accountants, they would say, I haven't got the time to do that, right? But if you take into account the amount of time and effort that you are saving by automating that entire process, yes, you do have time.
Yeah,
So I
right.
would sort of say, how many hours are you spending if you're delivering that service? How many hours are you spending collating that data, interpreting it, kind of every month or whatever for your clients? It's taking you hours and hours and hours to have that up on your screen, pick up the phone, ring your client, and you've got them forever,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well, people want the personal touch now more than ever. I mean, it's
yes,
just because we've become so automated and digitized for sure.
yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts, John, on what you're seeing from firms with the analytics?
In terms of this approach to it, I
Yeah.
think uh, what I'm finding is I believe we live in the age of entrepreneurs right now, and
Mhm.
so you have a lot of people who want to start their own practices, and this is with tools like this because you've got the big names like QuickBooks and Zero and so forth that you integrate with. It makes it a whole lot easier to go out and start a practice now, and I find that a lot
Absolutely.
of like CFOs or controllers who are looking to do something different. And they say, yeah, I think I want to start like fractional CFO, fractional controller type of service offering. And these are the kind of tools that really make it easier for them to get something
Yes,
established. So I think that's a big
yeah,
trend
for
I'm seeing
sure.
a lot out there. It's harder in an existing firm. It's harder to make change. It just is. But
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so
And yet
that's
some of the bigger ones are doing it, but yeah, I mean, I kind of think this side of it, as I mentioned earlier, that's what we delivered out of my practice for years. We did all the compliance stuff, but I loved doing the advisory piece because you're actually getting face to face, you're making an impact.
right.
And and that is, priceless. And now when you actually see, firms starting out and they're saying, actually, I'm going to use my skills to do this, and it's so much more fun, quite frankly, and than the whole compliance work. It is. It's good fun, and I think we can change. What one of the things that I'm very very passionate about is changing that number from at the moment like 9 out of 10 businesses fail within the first 5 years, and I really believe that that's because they haven't got the support and advice that they need to make the right
Right.
decisions. Right.
Absolutely.
1,000%. I mean, as a business owner myself, it's
And
if you
I
don't
think if you're delivering,
that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah, and it's just to try and give a better chance for surviving and thriving. And I think as accountants, we have the power to do that.
So I have a
So,
question maybe
I'm sorry.
for both of you. You just said, to help businesses survive and thrive. I think accounting firms are also looking at with this next phase of the accounting profession with AI advisory. Like, what advice would you both have for how these firms can survive and thrive, whether they're new or established? If that's
I
okay.
think I'll just start with, I think that the first thing they got to do is change their mindset. So whenever you talk about AI with these folks, is like it's kind of easy to scare them. I don't try to scare them, but they get scared. And I talk about that. We're not that many years away, in my opinion, from when you won't need Excel anymore. And so when you tell somebody that spends half their day working in Excel, that can be very, very, intimidating and scary to them. But I think, telling them that, think about how much time you spend building Excel workbooks and how much time you spend analyzing what you've created in Excel. And it's usually a pretty small fraction. They have to have the mindset to think about, how do I flip that, right? Because all the work, like with Brenda's type of solution, all that busy work of building the spreadsheets is pretty much done.
John,
I've not worked with
yeah,
the solution, but I assume it's pretty much, baked in already. And so now they just got to have that mindset about, okay, let's really think about how we help our clients understand their business instead of building the information, using the information. It's not an easy change though. That's the thing of it.
yeah. Just to your point, mindset. It's the fear of the unknown. To a large extent, that I think most accountants, not most, but quite a few, have to overcome. And it's really kind of about embracing technology, and actually understanding that they do have a skill set that will make a difference,
Mhm.
out in the world of startups and small businesses. And it's actually just to, I guess, value more their own experience and their own
Right.
expertise, and say, okay, let's look at it. Because quite frankly, this, I was going to say it's coming, whether they like it or not, but it's here. The
Right.
Yeah.
change is here, you know. And I think kind of more and more businesses, as Gaynor said earlier, are demanding this kind of support. And they're no longer happy getting information out of spreadsheets because they're using technology for everything.
Mhm.
And like even down, down to looking at, the health of your business and getting timely insights into the health of your business. We're all wearing watches and we're wearing devices that
Mhm.
tells us what our heart rate is, what our blood pressure is, and all the rest of it, every moment of every
Yeah.
day. But where do we get those insights into our own business, which is, for most business owners, it's their lifeblood. It's like, it's like
Right.
it's what supports them and their families and their dreams and their hopes and all the rest. And quite often they're moving blindly. They don't know what's going on until their accountant, maybe comes every quarter or annually or whatever and says, "Here's your accounts." And even then, they're not always interpreted for them in a way that can be utilized. So
Yeah.
I think that change, that's the past, you know.
Yeah.
And good riddance, quite frankly, because I've always had, from the time I started, I've always sort of felt, way back in the day, I've always felt that there's so many stories, with so much information within the numbers, that if interpreted correctly, can give guidance and can help, and I think that's really, yeah. So, it's just, yeah, take the step forward, accountants. Embrace AI. It's not scary, it's actually wonderful.
I have
Just
a
like Salesforce says in their TV commercials that data is the new gold.
yeah.
Well,
Yes. Somebody that we worked with would say data is the new oil. So it's like the
Yeah.
yeah.
whatever you can do with it. But
Yeah, I'd kind of go further and say it's the interpretation and the implementation of it. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of data out there.
yes.
So it's actually
Yeah.
picking out the nuggets of information, which is what I've always focused on, is getting the insights,
Yeah.
and then learning or figuring out how to implement what you're seeing, what it's telling you. What does it mean? What can you do with it?
So
Yeah.
here's a question to that point on the firm side. How would you suggest that somebody or a firm gets started, no matter where they are in their like firm life cycle. Because if people are intimidated in doing this, like, do you start with a couple of clients and try it out, or use the software? One thought that was running through my mind as you were talking, Brenda, is what about making short videos that you could send to your clients, just saying, we looked at the data in this month, this is what we're seeing. Give us contact us if you want to like discuss it more. And then
Yeah,
that really does open the door to having that conversation for people who may be like a little bit hesitant on doing that.
sure. Sorry, John, do you want to answer that or will I?
Well, the one thing I would say is where I think there's a missing need out there is more of that kind of a training gainer. Like, okay,
Mhm.
here's the tools. Now here's how to go about and do it. I mean, how to
Yes.
Yeah,
scope out the engagement, how to price the engagement, how to create the engagement letter, and most importantly, how to deliver the engagement. I think
Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot out there, but I just think there needs to be more of that because there's definitely a lot of tools, as Brenda's tool, looks to be a very effective tool. Now, anything you can do to help the practitioners to understand how they can actually deliver the service would be
yeah,
really helpful.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I 100% agree with what you're saying, John. To Gaynor's point, I think for somebody to come in and trial SOBI and try it with one of their clients, it's a pretty good place to start. But
Hmm.
if you want to kind of bring this in as a proper service, and you want to do it professionally, you have to be strategic about it, like with anything else you're going to do in your business. So you've got to recognize it that this is if it's a service that you're not already delivering, you got to do out a business plan around it. Be strategic
Mhm.
about it. So what are you going to need? Talk to your clients, see what they need. Kind of assess the data that you've got. Is the data that you're currently collecting, is it suitable for analysis and so on. What exactly is needed here, and then it's also then to look and say, okay, in house, what do you need? I mean, I would argue that you certainly don't need additional staff because we're after cutting out a huge amount of kind of manual kind of hours in analyzing
Right.
that data. But there more than likely would be some sort of training that is necessary. And so the training, we offer training, but the type of training that we offer isn't on the product because the product is fairly, once you know what you're looking for and you know what you need to get for a client, it's easy to access it. Well, we actually offer training on understanding and interpreting the results and what they mean, and actually, helping accountants to actually, use them in a strategic way for their clients. So
Hmm.
it's all about, first of all, it starts off with mindset and it's understanding that, first of all, if you don't engage in this, you're going to get left behind. And secondly, it is a huge opportunity. There's a growing market, there's a gap in the market.
Hmm.
I think it is, there are more and more accountants now that are coming out and providing this service. Still not enough. I think this has got to be mainstream
Hmm.
because it's something that clients, there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
Right.
But there is most certainly a gap there's a skill sets gap at the moment. But then, as I said, our approach to it is teaching the skills that are necessary, not the software so much,
Right.
but the
Well, that's good
actual
to hear.
skills.
Yeah, that's really good to hear because
Yeah,
that's like I say, I think there's a big need for that out there, that part of it.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
definitely, I mean, you can't get better at something if you don't work on it. So, get started with
exactly.
it. One
Yeah,
question I had just about SOBI as well, Brenda, was does it do benchmarking for like specific industries? So, for example,
yes.
if a firm specializes in restaurants or, contractors or whatever, there's some benchmarking they can do by industry.
Yes. Yeah. So every company that signs up to SOBI, we ask them is their industry sector and segment. Now we if you like, populate for now, but we will automatically populate that when we have a core volume of businesses from different sectors, right, in the same geographical area. So once we actually have that, SOBI will populate it automatically. But what we're doing at the moment is we're actually working alongside a number of research centres that will give us that data, that competitive data, and we can put that in behind, if you like, SOBI, so that the user can actually then benchmark against it. Another thing that we actually do, so you just said it as a firm that actually specialize in restaurants or whatever, more than likely they have their own benchmarking data. So if they want to use, which quite a lot of our clients do, they use their own benchmarking data to actually measure all of their clients from a particular sector or segment, to actually be able to compare apples with apples. They basically will say, okay, here's the benchmarking for this group. And they can actually pull off, they can actually see how they compare against each other, which of course lends itself to more strategic advice and guidance there as well, of course.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, great. I mean, sounds like a great tool, and definitely this is the age of AI and advisory. I would say it's the
For sure.
AI squared, advisory impact and AI together. So I guess I have a question to ask you, Brenda, since
Okay.
you split your time between Ireland and the US. What's your favorite thing about the US in terms of maybe where you like to eat or what you like to do in the US versus when you're in Ireland? So that I know John was saying that he wants to, go visit his roots in Ireland. So maybe
Right.
a couple of tips.
Okay, so I guess I've been around the US quite a lot. So kind of in New York, St. Louis, San Francisco, Texas. I've been around quite a lot, and so I mean, and I love food in every single place I've gone. One of the best brunches I've ever had actually was in St. Louis, and there is a restaurant there, and they only do brunch. That's all they do, and they do the most amazing brunch. Their French toast with tons and tons of berries, fantastic, right? So from a food perspective, yeah, they've got that one. But there's something else I'd love to add in terms of what I found during my time living out in San Francisco, and I was actually talking to somebody based out there earlier on this week, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. And so when I kind of lived out there at my last company, I was out there for around 3 years. And one thing that always amazed me was this generosity of spirit, and certainly, in the Bay Area, of people wanting to, if you like, pay it forward with startups. And I know that kind of as, and a tiny little large company coming into the Bay Area at the time, and actually getting meetings and introductions to the heads of huge organizations that I could only have dreamed of talking to. I never thought it would be possible, right? And so I kind of found, and that was something that consistently blew my mind. Because I guess Ireland, you wouldn't have we have obviously a lot of big organizations, but you would never get next or near the top tier. And these guys and gals being able they'd make time for you. The generosity of spirit was something that I have to say really, really knocked me over.
That's really great to hear. And hopefully, if we have entrepreneurs watching this podcast, they'll take heed to that. And
Yeah.
very encouraging.
Well, ask. I suppose the whole thing about it is ask. Don't be afraid of asking. And if you can get to talk to somebody, ask, be forward.
Yeah.
And I would say
yeah,
that's a good way to think about advisory too, right? Ask
yeah,
your client what they're worried about. Ask your client what's keeping them up at night. Ask
great.
them, is there anything about your business that you're concerned about or, that's coming up? And that's a great gateway. I mean, I think
Yeah,
everything that we've said today points to really accounting professionals honing not so much their accounting skills, but their client coaching skills and their
Yep.
skills to have the confidence to really just ask the questions that are probably running through their heads they're probably running through their clients' heads too. Like, what
Yeah,
does this
yeah,
mean? Or,
yeah,
wow, that cash flow is really fluctuated.
yeah.
What should we do about that?
What
And
do I need to do about it?
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you can answer that question with SOBI and some coaching
yeah,
skills, right?
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Brenda.
No, I've enjoyed the talk. Thank you so much. As you will gather, I could talk about this all day. I'm so passionate about this
So could
space.
we
But
actually. We could
Yeah.
literally just keep recording all afternoon and find something else. I know John could as well. So, but we'll
Yeah.
have to end
so
it here
that's
and
we
then
have to
we'll
end it. Yeah.
maybe we'll have
Okay.
a beer or something in Ireland one day.
That
Oh,
sounds good.
that'd be amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. I've enjoyed being
Yeah.
here.
Well, thank you for
Great.
joining
And I
Okay.
us,
know,
Brenda, and we'll
No,
hopefully
good.
see you down the road somewhere
yeah,
soon.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure we
no
will.
doubt, no doubt. Take care, everybody.